The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest room in the known galaxy. It sat at the center of Station Prime, a massive structure floating between three star systems. Here the Galactic Council met to decide the fate of worlds. 47 species sent their representatives to this hall. Some had been spacefaring for millions of years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched stars die and new ones born. Today, they had gathered to discuss the humans. Ambassador J stood at the center of the speaking platform. He was a small man by human standards, with calm eyes and steady hands. He wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. No medals, no decorations, just clean fabric and polished boots. Behind him stood Hannah, his military attaché. She was tall and quiet, with short black hair and a face that showed nothing. Around them rose the seats of the council, arranged in a great circle that climbed toward the ceiling. Hundreds of alien faces looked down at the two humans. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no faces at all, just clusters of eyes or sensory organs that served the same purpose. All of them watched with expressions that ranged from boredom to open contempt. Overseer Vorlon called the session to order. He was a tall creature, insect-like, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the light in strange patterns. His voice came through the universal translator as a dry, clicking sound. "The council recognizes the representative from Earth. You may speak," bowed slightly. "Thank you, Overseer. I come before this council with a simple request. Humanity asks for official recognition of Sol System as protected territory. We ask that hostile operations within our space be formally banned under galactic law." For a moment, the hall was silent. Then the laughter began. It started with Representative Kellex, a reptilian delegate from the Soren Empire. His species had ruled 100 worlds for 50,000 years. He threw back his scaled head and laughed, a harsh, barking sound that echoed through the chamber. Others joined him. The laughter spread like a wave, rolling up through the seats until the entire hall shook with it. Kellex stood, still laughing. "Forgive me, Overseer. I must have misheard. Did this soft little mammal just ask the Galactic Council for protection?" He spread his clawed hands wide. "Humans have been in space for what? 200 years? My species was building star cruisers when theirs was still living in caves." More laughter. Jay did not move. His expression did not change. Another delegate spoke up, a floating cloud of gas from the Nebula Collective. "The human request is amusing, but also insulting. No species in galactic history has ever received territorial protection without first proving their worth. What have humans contributed to the galaxy? What battles have they won? What empires have they built?" "None," Kellex answered. "They have done nothing. They are children playing with toys they do not understand. And now they come crying to us for help." He turned his yellow eyes toward Jay. "Go home, human. Build your little ships. Play your little games. When a real power decides to take your world, there is nothing you or anyone else can do to stop it." The laughter rose again. Some delegates did not even bother to hide their amusement. They whispered to each other, making jokes about the weak pink creatures who dared to stand before the council. Through it all, Jay remained still. Hannah stood behind him like a statue. When the laughter finally died down, Overseer Vorlon spoke again. His tone was not cruel, but it was final. "Ambassador J, the council, appreciates your optimism. But Representative Kellex speaks the truth. Territorial protection is earned, not given. Humanity has not earned this right. Your request is denied." Jay nodded slowly. "I understand, Overseer. We expected this response." Kellex snorted. "Then why did you waste our time?" "Because," Jay said quietly, "we wanted to give the council a chance to make the right choice before we showed you why that choice matters." Something in his voice made the laughter stop. The hall grew quiet. Even Kellex paused, his eyes narrowing. "We have a recording," Jay continued. "It is 6 months old. It shows an event that took place in Sol System. We ask only that the council watch this recording before making their final decision." Borland's compound eyes shifted. A recording of what? Of what happens when someone enters human space without permission? Kellex laughed again, but this time the sound was uncertain. More human tricks? What could you possibly show us that would change anything? Jay did not answer. He simply turned to Hannah and nodded. Hannah stepped forward. In her hand was a small data chip, no larger than a fingernail. She walked to the central projector, a device that could display images large enough for the entire hall to see. Every delegate watched her. Some were still smiling. Some were curious. A few, the older ones who had lived long enough to know that quiet confidence was more dangerous than loud threats, began to feel something they had not felt in centuries. They felt doubt. Hannah inserted the chip into the projector. The lights in the hall dimmed automatically. A holographic display flickered to life above the speaking platform, large enough for every species in the room to see clearly. 6 months ago, Jay said. His voice calm and clear, the Vex Armada entered Sol System. 200 warships. The Vex have conquered dozens of worlds. They have enslaved 4 species into extinction. They have never lost a battle in 8,000 years. He paused, letting the words sink in. They entered our system expecting easy prey. They found something else. The recording began to play. The first image showed Earth, blue and green and beautiful, hanging in the black emptiness of space. Around it, small human ships moved in defensive patterns. 12 vessels total. They looked like toys compared to what was coming. Then the Vex fleet appeared, merging from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of metal locusts. 200 warships, each one bristling with weapons. The largest was the size of a small moon. In the council hall, the delegates leaned forward. They expected to see slaughter. They expected to see the humans running, dying, begging for mercy. They were wrong. The recording showed the bridge of the human defense vessel Resolve. It was not a large ship. By galactic standards, it was barely a frigate. The bridge was cramped and functional, filled with screens and controls that looked almost primitive compared to the smooth organic technology of the older species. Captain Tay stood at the center. He was a broad man with gray at his temples and scars on his hands. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in wars on Earth before humanity ever reached the stars. Now he commanded the lead ship of Earth's defense fleet. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. Lieutenant Sue sat at the communications station, her fingers moving across her console. Ensign Wu, barely 20 years old, manned the weapons systems. His face was pale, but his hands were steady. On the main screen, the Vex fleet filled the view. 200 ships. The flagship alone was larger than all 12 human vessels combined. Status report, Tay said. His voice was calm. Vex fleet is in attack formation, Sue reported. They're charging weapons. I'm reading enough firepower to glass every continent on Earth 3 times over. Wu swallowed hard. Sir, we're outnumbered almost 20 to 1. Our ships can't match their firepower. What do we do? Tay looked at the screen for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had accepted what was coming and found peace with it. We do what humans have always done, he said. We fight. He turned to Sue. Open a channel to the Vex flagship. All frequencies. In the council hall, the delegates watched this exchange with growing confusion. Kellex leaned forward, his scales rustling. Why was the human captain smiling? Did he not understand that he was about to die? The recording continued. Sue opened the channel, and Tay spoke directly to the Vex commander. Attention, Vex fleet. You have entered human space. This is protected territory. Turn your ships around and leave now. This is your only warning. The Vex commander's response came through the speakers. It was a harsh, grinding voice, full of contempt. Human, you are in no position to give warnings. Your world is ours. Your species will serve the Vex or die. There is no third option. Tay nodded slowly, as if he had expected this answer. Very well. You were warned. Cut the channel and turn to his crew. All ships, execute pattern 7. Wu. Arm everything we have. Sue, coordinate with the fleet. We're going to show these invaders what happens when they threaten our home." The Vex commander laughed and gave the order to attack. The massive fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Plasma fire lit up the darkness of space. Missiles streaked toward the tiny human ships. What happened next made the council hall fall completely silent. The human ships did not retreat. They did not scatter. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the Vex fleet at speeds that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. They used the gravity of Jupiter to slingshot around the planet, gaining velocity that no one in the galaxy had thought achievable with human technology. The Vex weapons fire missed. The human ships were moving too fast, changing direction too quickly. They wove through the enemy fleet like water through rocks, and as they passed, they fired. Human weapons were not elegant. They did not use the refined energy beams of the older species. Instead, they used kinetic projectiles. Chunks of metal accelerated to near light speed. Simple, brutal, devastating. The first Vex ship exploded. Then the second. Then the third. In the council hall, delegates began to stand, unable to believe what they were seeing. These were the Vex. The Vex had conquered empires. The Vex had never lost. The recording showed the human ships moving in perfect coordination. They did not fight as individuals. They fought as a single unit, covering each other, supporting each other, moving as if they shared one mind. When one ship was damaged, another would slide into its place. When one weapon failed, 3 others would target the same enemy. "What is this?" Vorlon whispered. His compound eyes were wide. "How are they doing this?" The answer came from Tay's bridge. The human captain was giving orders constantly, but he was not commanding his fleet like a general commands an army. He was talking to them like family. Sue covered Jin's ship. "She's taking fire on her port side." "On it, Captain." "Whew." "The flagship is turning." "Target their engine array." "Yes, sir." "Firing now." The humans called each other by name. They knew each other. They trusted each other. And that trust allowed them to do something the Vex could never understand. They fought without fear. The Vex flagship turned its main weapon toward the Resolve. It was a planet killer, a beam designed to crack worlds open. If it hit the small human ship, there would be nothing left. Tay saw it coming. He did not run. Instead, he pushed his ship directly at the flagship, weaving through the beam's targeting systems. "All ships, focus fire on my mark," he said calmly. 3, 2, 1. Fire. 12 ships fired at once. 12 streams of kinetic rounds struck the Vex flagship at the same point. The junction where its main weapon connected to its power core, the impact was catastrophic. The flagship exploded. In the council hall, Kellex made a sound that might have been a gasp. The recording showed the Vex commander's ship breaking apart, its hull torn open by the coordinated strike. The explosion destroyed 3 other Vex vessels that were too close. The battle lasted for more minutes. For minutes of chaos and fire and impossible human maneuvers. When it was over, the Vex formation had collapsed. Over 40 ships destroyed. Dozens more damaged. And the humans had lost only 2 vessels. The surviving Vex did something they had never done in 8,000 years of warfare. They ran. The recording paused on an image of the Vex fleet fleeing, their engines burning hot as they desperately tried to escape human space. In the council hall, no one was laughing anymore. Jay's voice broke the silence. "This was only the beginning," he said quietly. "The recording continues. The council should see what happened next." Vorlon's voice was barely a whisper. "What? What happened next?" Jay looked up at the assembled delegates. His eyes were cold. "We followed them." The recording shifted. The battle was over, but the council now watched a different kind of presentation. It was a scientific briefing, recorded in a clean white room somewhere on Earth. A woman stood before a display screen, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her name appeared at the bottom of the image. Dr. Nari, Human Biological Sciences Division. "What you are about to see," Dr. Nari said in the recording, "is an explanation of human combat capabilities. We have prepared this briefing because we believe the galaxy has fundamentally misunderstood what humans are. In the council hall, delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some were still staring at the frozen image of the fleeing Vex fleet. Others had turned their attention fully to this new segment. Vorlon had not moved since the flagship exploded. His compound eyes reflected the light of the display. Dr. Nari continued. The galaxy looks at humans and sees a young species. Small, soft, fragile. You see our thin skin and assume we are weak. You see our short history and assume we are primitive. She smiled slightly. You are wrong. The display behind her changed to show a diagram of the human body. Organs, muscles, bones, all labeled in clinical detail. Humans evolved on a planet that was trying to kill us. Our world has predators with claws and teeth. It has diseases that can destroy entire populations. It has weather that ranges from burning heat to freezing cold. We survived all of it. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we were the most adaptable. We refused to die. The display shifted to show brain scans. The human brain produces chemicals that other species do not have. When we are in danger, our bodies release what we call adrenaline. This chemical does something remarkable. It increases our strength. It dulls our pain. It speeds up our reactions. For a short time, it makes us faster, stronger, and more resistant to damage. Kellex finally spoke, his voice rough. All species have combat responses. This is nothing special. You are partially correct, Dr. Neri said, as if she could hear him through time. Many species have similar responses. But humans have something else. We have endurance. The display changed again. This time it showed human soldiers running, fighting, marching across difficult terrain. Most species in the galaxy are designed for short bursts of activity. You sprint, you fight, you rest. This is efficient. This is logical. Dr. Nari paused. Humans are not logical. We are persistence predators. On our homeworld, we hunted by following prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We could not outrun our prey. We did not need to. We simply never stopped following. She let that sink in before continuing. A human soldier can operate without sleep for several days. Performance degrades, but they remain functional. They remain dangerous. In the battle you just witnessed, our crews fought for 17 hours straight. They did not stop. They did not rest. While the Vex rotated their crews and tried to recover, our people just kept fighting. In the council hall, a murmur spread through the delegates. 17 hours of continuous combat was unthinkable. Most species would collapse after 3 or 4. The recording continued with combat footage from the battle. It showed a human marine named Key aboard one of the ships. He was part of a damage control team, fighting fires and sealing breaches while the battle raged outside. A Vex boarding party broke through the hull. 3 armored soldiers with weapons designed to cut through flesh like paper. Key was hit by a plasma bolt. It burned through his shoulder, leaving a wound that would have killed most beings instantly. Key did not die. He did not even fall. The council watched in horror as the human looked down at his ruined shoulder, then looked back up at the Vex soldiers. His face twisted into something primal, something terrifying. He raised his remaining arm, which still held his weapon, and fired. 3 shots. 3 dead Vex. Then Quay walked to the medical station, applied basic treatment to his own wound, and returned to his post. How? Vorlon breathed. How's that possible? As if answering, Dr. Nari spoke from the recording. Human bodies are self-repairing. Given time, we heal from injuries that would permanently disable other species. We can lose limbs and survive. We can suffer organ damage and recover. Our bodies fight to stay alive with a stubbornness that defies logic. The recording showed more examples. Humans fighting with broken bones. Humans continuing to work after being exposed to radiation. Humans surviving in conditions that should have killed them a dozen times over. But our most dangerous trait, Dr. Nari said, is not physical. It is emotional. The display showed images of human families, human friends, Human communities. Humans form bonds. We call it love, loyalty, friendship. These are not just words to us. They are biological imperatives. When a human's loved ones are threatened, something changes in our brain chemistry. We become more aggressive, more focused, more willing to sacrifice ourselves. Her voice grew quieter. The Vex threatened Earth. They threatened our families, our children, our homes. Every human in that battle knew what was at stake. They were not fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for everyone they had ever loved. She looked directly at the camera, and her eyes were hard. You cannot buy that kind of motivation. You cannot train it into soldiers. It comes from somewhere deeper than logic or discipline. It comes from the heart. In the council hall, the delegates sat in stunned silence. They had built their civilizations on reason and calculation. They had forgotten, if they ever knew, what it meant to fight for something beyond survival. Kellix's voice was barely audible. They are monsters. No, Jay said softly from the speaking platform. He had been watching the delegates' reactions throughout the recording. We are not monsters. We are humans. We are what millions of years of survival made us. He gestured to the display. The recording is not finished. There is more you need to see. Forlan's voice trembled. What more could there possibly be? Jay's expression did not change. The Vex ran from our system. They thought they were safe. They thought distance would protect them. Paused. They were wrong. The recording resumed, and the council learned what human persistence truly meant. The recording showed Admiral Una standing on the bridge of the pursuit vessel Dawn. She was a small woman with silver streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Behind her, a tactical display showed the retreating Vex fleet. They were already 2 star systems away from Earth. Running as fast as their damaged ships could carry them, Admiral, her communications officer, reported, "The Vex are entering the outer rim. If they reach the dead zone, we'll lose them." Una did not look away from the display. "Then we won't let them reach it." "Ma'am, our ships need repairs. The crews need rest. We've been fighting for almost a full day. The Vex attacked our home," Una said quietly. "They came to enslave our people, to kill our children." She finally turned to look at her officer. "Do you need rest?" The officer's jaw tightened. "No, ma'am, I do not." "Neither do I." Una turned back to the display. "All ships maintain pursuit. We will follow them until there is nowhere left to run." In the council hall, the delegates watched as the human fleet began its hunt. The recording condensed 3 weeks of pursuit into a series of images and reports. But even compressed, the scope of what the humans did was staggering. The Vex fled across 4,000 light-years. They jumped from system to system, trying to lose their pursuers. They split their remaining ships, hoping to confuse the humans. They hid in asteroid fields and behind gas giants. They even tried to set traps, leaving damaged ships behind as bait. None of it worked. The humans followed them everywhere. When the Vex split up, the human fleet split up too. When the Vex hid, the humans searched until they found them. When the Vex set traps, the humans triggered them on purpose and fought their way through. The recording showed Admiral Una 3 days into the pursuit. She had not slept. Her eyes were red and her voice was hoarse. But she was still standing. Still giving orders. Still hunting. "Admiral, we found another group. 7 ships hiding in the asteroid belt of the Kilos system. Send the 3rd wing to deal with them. Tell Captain Mock to leave no survivors." A younger officer spoke up hesitantly. "Ma'am, shouldn't we take prisoners?" "For intelligence purposes." Una's face did not change. "The Vex do not take prisoners. They take slaves. They would have done the same to Earth." She paused. "No prisoners. No mercy. They made their choice when they entered our system." The recording jumped forward to show the attack on the Kilos asteroid belt. 7 Vex ships against 5 human vessels. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 7 Vex ships were nothing but debris floating in the void. Day after day, the hunt continued. The humans rotated their crews when they had to, sleeping in shifts while others maintained the pursuit. The Vex could not do the same. Their species needed long periods of rest to function. As the days passed, they grew weaker, slower, more desperate. 2 weeks in, the recording showed something that made even Vorlon look away. A Vex ship, its engines failing, transmitted a surrender signal. They begged for mercy. They offered to give up their weapons. They promised to never return to human space. The human response was a single word: no. The ship was destroyed. Kelix's voice was hollow. They surrendered. The humans killed them anyway. Jay spoke from the platform. The Vex surrendered because they were losing. If they had won at Earth, do you think they would have accepted our surrender? They planned to enslave every human being alive. They would have worked our people to death in their mines and factories. They would have taken our children as servants. His voice hardened. Mercy is earned, representative. The Vex earn nothing, recording continued. By the 3rd week, only 15 Vex ships remained. They had regrouped in a remote system at the edge of known space, hoping the humans would finally give up. The humans did not give up. Admiral Yuna arrived with the combined pursuit fleet. 20 ships, some of them badly damaged, but still functional. She opened a channel to the Vex commander, the same commander who had laughed at Captain Tay's warning 3 weeks earlier. Vex fleet. This is Admiral Yuna of the Human Defense Force. You have been hunted across 4,000 light-years. Your flagship is destroyed. Your armada is broken. You have nowhere left to run. The Vex commander's response was a scream of rage and terror. Why? Why won't you stop? We're leaving. We'll never return. Just let us go. Yuna's voice was flat. You came to our home. You threatened our families. You made yourself our enemy. She paused. Humans do not forget. Humans do not forgive. And humans do not stop. The final battle was short and brutal. The exhausted Vex fought desperately, but they had been running for too long. Their ships were damaged. Their crews were broken. The humans cut through them like a knife through paper. The recording showed Sergeant Ho leading a boarding party onto the last Vex vessel. His team moved through the corridors with deadly efficiency, clearing room after room. The Vex warriors they encountered barely put up a fight. 3 weeks of constant pursuit had destroyed their will to resist. Ho found the Vex commander in the central chamber. The alien was slumped against a wall, his weapon lying useless beside him. He looked up at the human with eyes full of fear. Please, the commander whispered. I'll do anything. I'll give you anything. Just let me live. Ho stood over him for a long moment. His face showed nothing. Came to our home, he said quietly. You threatened our families. He raised his weapon. Mercy was never an option. The recording ended with a final image, a human broadcast sent across all frequencies after the battle. It showed the burning wreckage of the Vex fleet, and beneath it, a simple message in every known language. Sol system is protected. Any species that enters with hostile intent will receive no quarter. We remember, we pursue, we finish. In the council hall, no one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Then Jay stepped forward to deliver humanity's final message. The silence in the Grand Assembly Hall was complete. 400 delegates from 47 species sat frozen in their seats. Some stared at the empty space where the recording had played. Others looked at Ambassador Jay with new eyes. A few would not look at him at all. Jay stood calmly at the center of the speaking platform. Hannah remained behind him, her expression unchanged from the moment they had entered the hall. They looked exactly the same as when the session began, but everything around them had changed. That is the recording, Jay said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. It carried through the silent hall without effort. 200 Vex warships entered our system. 0 remain in existence. Not just destroyed, but hunted across the galaxy until none survived. He paused, letting his words settle over the assembly like dust after an explosion. I want to be clear about something. Humanity did not come here to threaten the Galactic Council. We do not want war with any of you. We want peace. We want to trade. We want to learn. We want to grow alongside you and contribute to the galaxy. His eyes moved across the rows of delegates, meeting their gazes one by one. Most looked away. But we will not beg for our survival. We will not kneel before species who think they can take what is ours because they are older or stronger. The Vex believed they could crush us. They believed their 8,000 years of conquest made them invincible. Somehow that made it more frightening. They were wrong. Overseer Vorlin finally stirred. His compound eyes were dim, the usual glow faded by something that might have been shock. "Ambassador J," he said slowly, "you said the Vex had never lost a battle in 8,000 years. They were one of the most feared powers in 3 sectors. How did your people defeat them so completely?" Jay considered the question. "Because they made the same mistake you made today, Overseer. They looked at us and saw prey. They saw our soft skin and our short history and assumed we would break easily." Shook his head. "Humans are not prey. We have never been prey. We survived on a planet that tried to kill us every day of our existence. We evolved to endure, to adapt, to overcome." He took a step forward. "And when our families are threatened, when our home is in danger, we become something far more dangerous than any predator. We become protectors. We fight without fear. We pursue without mercy. We do not stop until the threat is eliminated." The hall remained silent. Somewhere in the upper rows, a delegate made a sound that might have been a whimper. "We are offering you something the Vex did not receive," Jay continued. "We are offering you a choice. Recognize Sol System as protected territory. Acknowledge humanity's right to exist in peace. And in return, we will be your allies. Your friends? Your partners in building a better galaxy." He paused. "Refuse us. Mock us again. Send your fleets to test our defenses." His eyes hardened. "And discover firsthand why the Vex are no longer mentioned in the present tense." Vorlin rose from his seat. His movements were stiff, uncertain. "The Council will vote on humanity's request for territorial protection. All delegates will register their decision." The voting system activated. Holographic displays appeared before each delegate, offering 2 options: approve or deny. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, hands began to reach out. Jay watched without expression. Hannah stood motionless behind him. The votes appeared on the central display as they were cast. Approve, approve, approve. One after another, the delegates voted in favor of humanity's request. Even Kellex, who had laughed the loudest, pressed the approval button with a trembling claw. When the last vote was cast, Vorlin read the result aloud. His voice was barely steady. "The vote is complete. 47 in favor. 0 against. Humanity's request for territorial protection is approved. Sol System is hereby recognized as protected space under galactic law. Any hostile action against human territory will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council itself." Jay bowed slightly. "Thank you, Overseer. Humanity accepts the Council's decision with gratitude." He turned and began walking toward the exit. Hannah fell into step beside him. The delegates watched them go in silence. No one whispered. No one moved to stop them. They simply watched, the way small animals watch a predator pass by. At the door, Kellex suddenly stood. "Ambassador J." Jay stopped and turned. The reptilian delegate walked down from his seat, his scales catching the light. When he reached the speaking platform, he looked at the human with an expression that mixed fear, respect, and something like wonder. "The Vex were considered the most dangerous species in 3 sectors, Kellex said. They conquered worlds. They built empires. They made entire civilizations tremble at their name." He paused. "How did you defeat them so completely? How did 12 ships destroy 200? Jay studied the delegate for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was a small smile, quiet and cold, and it did not reach his eyes, because they made a mistake that every species makes with humans. They looked at us and saw prey. He leaned closer, and his voice dropped to barely a whisper. "We were never the prey, Representative. We were always the hunters. We were always the wolves pretending to be sheep. He straightened. Remember that the next time you think about what humans are capable of. He turned and walked out of the hall. Hannah followed without a backward glance. Kellic stood frozen for a long moment after they left. Then he returned to his seat in silence. In the corridor outside, Hannah walked beside Jay as they headed back to their ship. The station bustled around them, filled with aliens going about their business. None of them looked directly at the two humans. Word traveled fast on Station Prime. "Do you think they'll really leave Earth alone now?" Hannah asked quietly. Jay considered the question as they walked. "They will. Not because they respect us. Not because they believe in our cause. Then why? Because they finally fear us." Jay looked straight ahead, his eyes distant. And sometimes fear is the only language the universe understands. They walked in silence after that, two small humans on a station full of ancient, powerful beings. Behind them, the Grand Assembly Hall remained quiet for a very long time. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day. Humans were young. Humans were small. Humans looked weak and soft and fragile, but humans were not prey, and the galaxy would never forget it.